Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the podcast of the Lotus Eaters for Friday, the 8th of January, 2021. Today we're going to be talking about the mostly peaceful Capitol storming. Nothing got burned down, and there was a policeman who died from injuries from fighting. But
Brian Sicknick's Facebook page filled with condolences after word of his death was announced last night by Capitol Police. Reports that he may have been hit in the head with a fire extinguisher while trying to deal with the surging mob. That same Facebook page showing that Sicknick believed in President Trump, as did the rioters he faced.
Lindsey Graham, after this happened, I mean, don't get me wrong, I appreciate that maybe to these senators it was scary, right? Because we saw the pictures of Nancy Pelosi's computer. And they've got like flashing red warnings. Oh, protesters are in the building, security alert, blah, blah. And so they're freaking out. Oh my God, something terrible's happening. But it just doesn't seem to bear out with actually what the evidence shows. But Lindsey Graham says this: they could have blown the building up. They could have killed us all. They could have destroyed the government. What? This is a boomer protest, Lindsey.
A day before the insurrection, the FBI document highlighted an online thread discussing specific calls for violence to include be ready to fight. Congress needs to hear glass breaking, doors being kicked in, and blood from their BLM and Pantifa slave soldiers being spilled, the memo said. Get violent. Go there ready for war. We get our president, or we die.
I can't stand the fact that they're playing into the mainstream media narrative about an event that actually was mostly peaceful. But I mean, this is just an absurd hyperbolic statement. The protesters weren't armed. None of them were armed, as far as I can tell. None of them have a gun or, a knife or a machete or something. I don't know. Like, Molotov, yeah.
Federal prosecutors submitting chilling new evidence. In the case against Lonnie Kaufman, now in custody, authorities seizing from Kaufman's truck multiple firearms, a crossbow, and a cooler containing particularly lethal homemade Molotov cocktails.
But so this was not like people breaking in to lynch the senators, right? That's not what this was. This, in my opinion, was people who wanted to be heard by the Democratic Party who wasn't listening to them. And I think this is massively over-egging the pudding, as it were.
If Congress certifies the election, there should be military tribunals because the votes were obviously fraudulent, and it's treasonous. It's when the military takes over because the court systems have failed and the judges have failed and the military takes care of it.
Don't dare call them protesters. They were a riotous mob, insurrectionists, domestic terrorists. The actual peaceful protest of concerned citizens are now the insurrectionist domestic terrorists. I mean, it's just baffled. It's just beggars belief. This is, there is violence going on. I mean, it's not Black Lives Matter levels of violence, but they do.
Yeah, I mean, this is Berkeley 2016 level of violence, maybe.
Yeah, pushing through the cops, throwing a few punches. Look, you can see pepper spray, but it's not anything that's outside of the norm for American politics at this point. And on a scale of 1 to 10, this is like a 3. Right, this is especially in the current environment in America. This is not the end of the world, and this is certainly not something surprising. The GOP is done, and the only way forward is the third position. No, that'd be nonsense. MAGA can easily rise from the ashes from this.
USA! USA! USA!
13 generations of American patriots have made blood sacrifices from Lexington to Concord to Gettysburg and Antietam to Normandy to the Edmund Pettus Bridge. The American experiment very nearly came to an end because all that it takes to end it is a collapse of faith and belief. And when you have 80% of a political party that says that the elections aren't legitimate anymore on the basis of BS, we're on life support as a democratic nation. And everybody should understand how fragile all of this is. All it did was, all that it took was 4 years of Donald Trump to bring this country to one of the lowest points in its history.